I'm with DK Singh, the political editor of ThePrint, and this is a special episode of his weekly show, Politically Correct. And today we are discussing the question, are the union ministers as well as chief ministers across the country letting down Prime Minister Modi? So please send in your questions and DK will answer them, and he will take you behind the scenes and tell you everything that happens in Delhi and across the country as far as politics is concerned. So DK, this question that we have to our audience today, are Modi's ministers in the center and the chief ministers, are they letting him down?
First of all, let me tell you, I was pretty amused by the response to the question that we sent. People are asking,
already.
Yeah, they have already made up the mind that, okay, we have decided to say this. So that's not the case. We are just popping up the question.
Right.
So coming to the question as such, when I am saying whether the union ministers, chief ministers, mess of it, right from day one.
Yes.
And today, as one of the BJP leaders in Bihar, actually Sanjay Paswan,
right,
he has told our colleague Neelam Pandey, who is traveling there,
yes,
that when you started the lockout, before the announcement, you should have given at least 72 hours for people to go wherever they wanted to.
That's right. We should have given them some notice.
Yes, so that didn't happen. So that was the start. That was when it started. Then you saw thousands of them going by, going by bicycles and by whatever means. Now, they were all stranded. You did not really see the center responding to what was needed. All you saw was the Home Ministry giving a general guideline, okay, the states should take care of them.
And this has been 5 weeks.
Yes,
5
and the
weeks
states should not allow them.
Yeah.
Now that you have decided to let them go, what are you doing? You are not ready to pay for the tickets. So you have BJP leaders telling you that, okay, we are paying for 85% of the fare.
The Congress party first offered to pay the fare, didn't
Yes, after that, this was a reaction. So you have many BJP leaders saying that. Then you have Love Agarwal, the Joint Secretary
in the Health Ministry.
He repeats the same, but nobody is coming up with an answer. How do you reach that 85% figure? I mean, if states are paying for the tickets,
right,
and we have seen those passengers, they have been giving you bites on TV, saying, okay, here is the ticket we have bought.
Yeah.
So where is this figure coming from? So you have just messed up. And here you are talking about union ministers. You have very high-profile railway minister, Piyush Goyal. You look at his Twitter timeline. Not a word on this. All he does is he's retweeting what his party colleagues are saying.
So why do you think Piyush Goyal is not explaining this whole issue?
This entire argument is fallacious. I mean, if states are paying for the tickets, if passengers are paying for the tickets, how are you contributing 85% of the fare?
So where did this figure 85% come from, DK?
First, Sambit Patra said that, then you had Subramanian Swamy saying that, then you had Love Agarwal saying that. From the government side it has come. Right. There is no official clarification. And when we have spoken to railway officials, they also have no idea because there is no circular, no notification, no official communication. So you just float an idea in air and now you cannot come out officially to defend it.
Yeah.
So it becomes a kind of propaganda. So it's not just about one minister. On migrants crisis, how often have you heard the Home Minister talking about it?
No, yeah, well, so far he hasn't spoken about it even once.
Yes. We are talking about the economy all the time. Everybody is talking about the economy. How often have you found a finance minister coming out and fielding the questions? After the relief package that was announced, we have hardly seen the finance minister talking about this, offering some solutions.
The question is, you're saying that these ministers, whether Piyush Goyal or Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman or anybody else, you're saying that they're letting the Prime Minister down. What does that mean?
Well, one argument could be that the entire decision-making is so centralized. Like demonetization, we don't know who took the decision for the lockdown. Did the cabinet decide? No, the cabinet did not meet before that.
Okay.
So we don't know how the decision was taken. So if the Prime Minister is taking all the decisions, I'm sure he must have consulted at least the senior ministers at some stage.
Right.
So even if we say that the ministers don't have a say in the decision making, if we presume that, what the opposition parties have been alleging, but at some point these ministers should go and actually offer some, okay, these are the pitfalls. You have to say that.
Right.
But we don't hear any ministers. It's not just about Piyush Goyal or Amit Shah or Nirmala Sitharaman. Look at all the ministers. All that they are doing is retweeting what the PM has said, retweeting what the BJP has said. All good things, okay, we have done a great job so far. Lockdown has achieved this.
But nobody is answering the questions about
Nobody
these
answering the
stresses.
questions. And then we are talking about the chief ministers. I mean,
So DK, before you answer, before you start talking about the chief, although there are already a lot of questions on chief ministers, but I'd like to take a question from Gurpreet Singh, who is asking if India can bring back their citizens from other countries, from abroad, then why is it they cannot manage this interstate problem of migrants?
that's exactly our question today. Why can't the government come out with a clear policy on this? Who will pay? When will they go? Now, Bihar, for instance, you have about 30 lakh migrants from Bihar who are stranded in other states. Now, you talk to Bihar government. They tell you, well, to bring back, so they started registering the migrants. They have got about 6 lakh people who have registered themselves. So, even to bring 6 lakh people, you need at least 600 trains.
Right.
So, when will you do that? There is no clear roadmap. Everybody is talking without any roadmap.
Okay, so there are also some questions on the states, DK, if you'd like to take those. Prashant Mukundan is asking, Amrinder Singh he's talking about the opening or the reopening of liquor shops. And he's saying, if Amrinder Singh, that's the Chief Minister of Punjab, was the first proponent of opening liquor shops when the other Chief Ministers were not being very, they were not in favor of it. But now almost every state has opened them except Punjab. So can you please explain that?
In Punjab, suddenly there is a spot. In the sense you have this
COVID positive
cases. You have hundreds of pilgrims who were in Nanded. They have come back. Hundreds of them have tested positive.
Right.
So that might have actually, somehow restrained Amrinder Singh from going ahead with what he had planned earlier.
Yes.
But I am guessing because there is no explanation from the state so far.
Okay. Then there is another question on Kerala. This is from Parimal A, and he wants to know while Kerala is deservedly getting the plaudits of how it has been able to combat COVID, why is nobody discussing Karnataka? It is a rich state, and they have been able to contain the infections to quite a low figure.
Yes, actually, in entire south, if you look at the positivity rate, that is when you test a per million tests, so the number of tests and the number of positive cases you get.
Yeah.
So that's the positive rate. So in the entire south, it's less than 2%. So national average, which was about 4.5%, until about a few days back, it has come down to 3.8%.
Yeah.
But the entire south is less than 2%. So south has managed it pretty well, no doubt. But look, when we are talking about the BJP chief ministers, I'm talking about the signaling. Now in Karnataka, what all have you heard? What you are hearing, okay, Kumaraswamy's son's wedding ceremony where all social distancing norms were violated. You hear about the ministers in the Yadurappa government fighting. You hear about the differences between the deputy chief minister and the chief minister there. So optics, we talk about optics, is everything wrong when it comes to BJP ruled states. I'm not saying in opposition ruled states everything is fine. Today we saw, yesterday evening actually, the West Bengal Chief Secretary released the entire figure under pressure from the center, of course.
Yeah.
Now you have the worst mortality rate in West Bengal. But then in other states, say in Rajasthan, now Ashok Gehlot has instructed his officials to go ahead and do as many tests as possible, even if the number goes up. Look at how Chhattisgarh has contained it. Look at how Odisha has contained it. But you look at the instance of BJP ruled state. Now, UP, for instance, UP has a population of 23 crores.
Right.
Now, you know the testing rate there, it's just about 426, 430 per million against the national average of 800 plus.
Right. So
similarly, you have Bihar, the NDA ruled
yeah.
state, you have Madhya Pradesh, they have the worst testing figures. So we don't even know how serious is the threat there now. Because they're all trying to hide it.
Explain to us, DK, what is happening in Gujarat? Why is the positivity rate so high in Gujarat?
Gujarat was very slow in testing initially, very slow. It's only about, I would say, for the last 10, 12 days that Gujarat has really gone aggressive in testing. And that's how you see a lot of positive cases coming out. But as our colleagues, Simran Sarur and Praveen Jain, they were there, and they say the health infrastructure in shambles. Hospitals, you go to Ahmedabad, some people tell you don't enter that hospital because if you enter, you definitely get the infection. The situation is so bad inside. Of course, you're not allowed to go inside. And then the mortality rate in Gujarat, it's Very bad. Maharashtra may have the highest number of
Cases.
COVID positive cases, about 15,000 so far. But the mortality rate there is just 4%. In Gujarat, it's about 5.6%. It's one of the highest in the country.
Right. So let's take a couple more questions, DK. Pradyumna B. Ravi wants to know whether the state governments are adhering to the principle of cooperative federalism and following the directives of the union. Are they cooperating with Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
Of course, like all of them actually. You had some differences in what Mamata Banerjee was saying, but Mamata Banerjee has also fallen in line. We have heard Partha Chatterjee, one of the ministers in Mamata Banerjee government.
Right.
He spoke to us today, to our colleague in Calcutta,
Yes.
Madhuparna, and he was very clear, okay, we have made some mistakes, but we are trying to make amends now.
Right.
So even West Bengal has fallen in line now. You don't really see any states, well, they have some legitimate demands. Everybody is starved of money. All states are starved of money today.
So
they're all demanding money.
where is the money going to come from? If the government says that it doesn't have the money, how is the government going to, or the centre, how is it going to give money to the
That's
states?
where you expect the finance minister, if not the prime minister, to address the question, because all states are demanding this. You need to come forward and say how you are looking at the entire thing.
So DK, a lot of, you have a daily health briefing that is addressed by Love Agarwal, who's the Joint Secretary in the Health Ministry, a representative from ICMR, from the Home Ministry. Occasionally there have been press conferences by Health Minister, Mr. Harshvardhan. But you don't really see the ministers coming out and addressing these issues.
Well, somehow, not just at the center, in every state you have seen political leadership has decided to field the bureaucracy there to handle all those uncomfortable questions.
But why?
First of all, they are well versed with facts. Secondly, they don't know. I mean, it cannot have, the way it's progressing, there's not much good thing to talk about.
Right.
That could be one of the reasons.
Okay, so here's another question, DK. I'd like you to, again, a question on the liquor shops.
And please let me
Yes.
add to your other question.
Yeah.
Plus, what you have seen, if at the center you have the prime minister as the face, in the state you have the chief minister as the face. So bureaucracy, when bureaucrats come in the picture, it's like there's no other political leader who is the face there. So you have one face at the center, one face in each state, and that's how it's going on. So it's kind of a political strategy also. Now the kind of goodwill the prime minister enjoys. So you wouldn't really want ministers to go out and talk because there is no official explanation coming forth.
Right, because there is a question here also where they say that Gokul Chawal is asking this question, DK, which is that why is it that the central government ministers, it's basically a similar question to what you just answered, but why is it that central government ministers, or for that matter, our prime minister, is not facing an open press conference?
Well, the prime minister hasn't faced any open press conference, so it's not the first time.
Ever since he got elected in 2014.
Yeah, so that's his style. He does not field the questions. And that's why you have seen the opposition talking about, how it's a one-way, basically one-way route where he just responds. He just tells you what he wants.
Right.
He does not answer what you may have questions about.
But even in we've seen that he has had several addresses to the nation in the last few weeks during this health crisis. But in the last one on Friday, it was a Home Ministry notification that came, which told us that the lockdown was gradually being, reduced. It was not the Prime Minister who came out.
Well, as our colleague Rama Lakshmi wrote in one of her columns, it was good to be there and convey the bold decision. Okay, we have decided to impose a national lockdown.
Right.
But then over a period of time, there is diminishing political return. And you don't want to take any more risks, because even today you have the highest number of positive cases. Even today, we don't know which way we are heading. The curve may be flattening, but after you relax the lockdown, you don't know which way. There may be a sudden spike. And the Prime Minister himself said in one of the interactions with the Chief Minister that in June and July, we are expecting a big spike.
Dharmendra Jori wants to know another question on liquor shops. What is the compulsion for the government to give permission for liquor shops to open? Is it revenue or pressure from the liquor lobby?
No, it's revenue. I mean, for the states today, they get a share of GST and GST collection is a pretty bad center also. Then the source of funds for the state today, there are just two sources. One is from, from petroleum products,
Right.
and then you have the excise duty from liquor shops. So states are so starved of funds, they desperately need money. So I won't really say it's liquor lobby involved, because every state is concerned. Many states are finding it difficult to even pay salaries to their employees. They need money. Well, yesterday Karnataka collected 45 crores in one day of liquor sale.
In one day.
Yeah.
That's quite incredible.
Yeah.
And Delhi, as we know, has hiked up the liquor revenue
By 70%.
But there's still, I think, the shops are full. So another couple of questions from Arvind Semwal, who
So heard. As I said, there is it's one-way communication channel. The ministers are supposedly talking with the district collectors directly, collecting information and passing it on to the PMO. But that's what we have heard. You talk to them, you don't really get any information from them as such.
But Arvind wants to know, have any of these ministers also been assigned individual responsibilities? For example, has any minister presented a blueprint to tackle the pandemic to the PM?
No, not really. I don't really think ministers are very much there in the decision-making process.
Utsav Shukla is asking, DK, can the PM or should the PM now shift the onus of managing COVID?
Well, by the way, let me qualify my last answer. When I say, I don't say ministers are involved.
Right.
Of course, you have a group of us which is supposedly handling the entire thing.
Right.
But we don't know. I mean, we heard about some of the meetings and some of the deliberations, but most of the whenever you have some major decisions coming, we haven't really seen any of these ministers coming out and talking about their proposals. So they have just left with the PMO. If they have to give some suggestions, they give it to the PMO, but ultimately the decision is taken at the PMO level.
Okay, so a question by Utsav Shukla. He's saying, can the PM or should the PM now shift the onus of managing COVID to the chief ministers? And if he's not doing that, then he wants to know from you, is this because Modi doesn't want the BJP chief ministers to get publicity?
No, I will not attribute any motive as such. I mean,
Okay.
does not want BJP CMs to get publicity. No, that will be a very wrong assumption. But yes, Centre under NDMA, Centre has got a lot of power. It's getting more centralized. So we see a tendency where Centre is asserting its somehow expanding this NDMA thing.
Right.
Right from its jurisdiction in the states.
That's the national disaster.
Yeah, right into your
management.
day-to-day life. And it's getting more and more assertive. That's a cause of concern. Somewhere the Centre has to pull back a little and let the states decide.
Right. Another related question is from Arnas compared to non-BJP states. I think you answered part of the
BJP
question.
rule states have responded very well. Assam is not much exposed to COVID threat. I mean, there is a threat, but Assam has managed very well. Goa is actually Goa is in green zone now, but they are smaller states. When you look at big states, big BJP ruled states, Gujarat is doing very badly, MP is doing very badly, Karnataka has done reasonably well.
Right.
You have then many northeastern states. The smaller states, as I said, you don't really have much exposure to this virus so far.
Sure.
And UP, of course, in UP, there's a lot of goodwill that Adityanath got after he decided to skip the funeral of his father. But then if you look at the micro picture, it's very bad. If you go to Lucknow today, you go to Hazratganj area, you find everybody moving around without any mask on. In containment zones you go, you find people basically getting no essential items because they have just been locked up.
Right.
And I talked about the testing figures. It's very low. It's almost half of the national average. So we don't really know the real picture yet.
Right. DK, last couple of questions. I have a question from Jyoti Yadav. I think this is our colleague from ThePrint, Jyoti Yadav. She's asking about the migrant workers. And she wants to know, isn't sending migrant workers home at this point of time with these trains and all that, isn't it a bait? Or does it mean that the government is planning a longer lockdown?
We cannot rule out a longer lockdown. And yeah, she's right there. It's a bit late.
Yeah.
But that's the only course left for you. As we said in the beginning of our program today,
right.
The Centre should have given a few days for the migrants to return, or should have at least drawn up some roadmap, which was not there. It's only when you saw migrants kind of getting agitated, walking down to their native places, I mean, hundreds of kilometers, then the center woke up. It's a bit late, but it's in the right direction, I suppose, because you cannot keep them bottled up here. Now, there's a contradiction also. When you talking about opening up the economy, relaxing things, you want economic activities to be resumed.
Yeah.
Now you're sending the migrants home. So there's a total mess. I mean, you don't know who is taking what decision, guided by whom.
Is the centre sharing the GST revenue? Because there is a question from Arun, and he will know why is centre, how long can the centre continue to arm twist the states by not sharing GST revenue?
Centre is not flush with funds as such. As I said, GST collection has been pretty low this time. And again, April has been totally wiped out. In March also, in the last week you had the lockdown, the collection was already very low.
Yeah.
So I don't think centre is flush with funds, and centre is going to, kind of
be generous in sharing.
So centre is also in a tight spot. It's very difficult. I mean, that's why I'm repeating that the finance minister, the prime minister has to come out openly. Okay, this is the state of affairs. This is what we can do. This is what we cannot do.
Yeah.
So being tight-lipped, evasive is not the answer.
DK, thank you so much for explaining all these questions. Please continue to subscribe to The Print on YouTube and continue to watch us on social media. And let us know what you think of this special edition of Politically Correct, DK's special show. Thank you so much for watching.